You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and we've had a couple weeks off just from the podcast, doing a lot of traveling lately to see brands across the country. We've been hosting close to, I think, 15 networking dinners. It's just been great. But a recent topic that's come up over and over again, not only in the in-person events we're doing, but a lot of the one-on-one conversations I'm having as well, is around what's going on with Amazon inventories as a whole. And a lot of people, seeing POs go down, a lot of people seeing FBA warehouse space being restricted, and the hey, why and what's going on is what we're going to kind of tackle today. I've got a great friend, partner, supporter of the network for a long time now with Corey Apirian over at Davinci Micro Fulfillment, just a resident expert in the space. A couple decades of experience here. And so we're just going to kind of hash through what's going on. But Corey, I'll kick it over to you. If you want to do a brief intro on yourself and Davinci, that'd be great. And we can kind of just jump into the conversation. Sound good?
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, Aaron. Love being on this podcast and being a partner of BWG. It's really amazing what you do for brands and retailers in the network and the ecosystem. I've been in this space for about 20 years, leading supply chain and brand management for several organizations, building dropship businesses, overseeing integrations. And, one thing we know is that brands are asked to do the heavy lifting, and fulfillment is a really core piece to the ecosystem now more than ever, but really has been for 20 plus years, as e-commerce has been a really fast growing opportunity. And what Davinci does is we provide a physical location network with our micro fulfillment centers that reach the majority of the US in 1 to 2 days, and a large mile radius for same day deliveries. And really, we are channel category carrier agnostic, helping brands reach their consumers through really this thesis of inventory control and getting goods closer to the consumer while making sure inventory is available and replenished back into these forward deployed locations. Very different from a regional 3PL model. Very different from a wholesale distribution model. We bring brands direct to dropship, marketplace, and D2C channels to really improve their customer experience, profitability, and increase their top line.
Yeah, Austin, I think that's one of the things we want to tackle today is this idea of inventory control. And so to give everybody just kind of a background, across verticals, I think the couple that are spared is if you're, maybe Legos right now, something highly, highly giftable, is this fact that, if you think about over the past couple of years, we're in a time of scarcity here. And so in those times, Amazon was really holding 12 plus weeks of inventory and then replenishing on a weekly basis as we normally see pre-pandemic, just to hold them at that 12 to maybe 14 week inventory level. And then sometime, it seems like about a month ago or so, maybe 6 weeks ago, Amazon abruptly decided to, from what I can deduct, hold about 3 weeks worth of inventory. And so I think a lot of, brands out there that you might be listening to this, are having that issue where as Amazon trims down inventory, your weekly POs have dropped down to next to nothing, as you're going to wait 9 weeks before you get your next PO. Or major PO to get back to a replenishment stage. And so that's hitting a lot of brands right now in Q4. Explaining that upward to your leadership is something that's incredibly difficult. The nonstop, which, anybody who deals with Amazon knows, you don't just call up and ask them to order more. You don't just call up and give them a discount. And so a lot of people are scrambling on two fronts. One, not going to hit their Q4 numbers. The other side of it is, if they're only holding 2 to 3 weeks of inventory, I know I'm going out of stock, right? It's one little shift or an ad campaign that takes off or competition goes out of stock and therefore people buy yours at twice the rate. And that gets into where people are really concerned about inventory control. And like they're realizing like Amazon is there to serve the end customer, not the brand, again and again. So, Corey, what do brands do? How do you look at this if you're a brand? Like, how would you do? You've had brands, manage them, you've lived in this space. Like, what's kind of the advice that you would have?
I mean, the advice that I have now is the same advice that I had 10 years ago, which is the same reason why I built Davinci, over 3 years ago, in late 2019. And it's really watching brands, again, who are asked to do the heavy lifting, struggle with putting all of their eggs into these singular baskets, whether it's Amazon FBA, Amazon Vendor Central, Walmart stores, and letting them do the fulfillment out of their FCs. That's coded into a distribution center that you don't know that you're shipping into bulk into a distribution center and getting routed, shipping into Target stores and letting them fulfill direct from stores. Like all of these things are completely combined and connected. And it has to do with what are you merchandising at these channels? Where are you placing them across the country so that they can be available for same day, 1 day, 2 day fulfillment? Because listen, that's the buying habit that we all expect as consumers. And it's very category and channel specific on the service level, and also dependent very much on having an agnostic carrier strategy where you can reach same day and parcel deliveries and understand this offset of carrier capacity too, and not jamming everything into FedEx or UPS singularly and exclusively. So there needs to be proximity to the end consumer in physical location and also data, so that you know who your demographic it is and where the density is. And then there needs to be agility in your tech stack, your integration capabilities, your order management capabilities, and your ability to have vendor numbers direct to store, direct to consumer, direct to FC for the channels that you're servicing. And if you're selling to Amazon, to have direct fulfillment and vendor central bulk lit up through peak season in the 1P side is really the best way to go, in my opinion, if you have that account for a variety of reasons, especially on direct fulfillment. If you hit their service levels across the country and graduate to a Prime badge by hitting those service levels and delivering 2 days ground across the US, and conversely for Walmart, Target alike, whether it's 1P or marketplace, if it's marketplace for Amazon, be an FBA and merchant filled and backup supply. But this weeks of cover thing is a really big problem. And the only way that a brand can solve it and control their destiny is by having fulfillment and agility in their model to do both. If I'm a toy vendor or a small appliance brand or somebody that's highly seasonal apparel footwear for peak season, and the bullwhip effect is a real thing, right? So you have this spike and surge in COVID, everybody's shopping online. People are doubling down on inventories and trying to have, just in case versus just in time. And all of a sudden last year, which those inventories are still very much in the US right now, containers are clogged up at ports, and you have inventory dropping in February for sales that were slated in November, December, the prior year. And because of the highly seasonal effect and consumer spending dropping throughout the year and all these unknowns in the supply chain, now you're sitting on inventory, you're expecting to sell them, you're probably likely already discounting them, and the cost of money of holding it is probably cratering the P&L. And all of a sudden, Amazon drops to 2 weeks of cover. And now if you put anything in transit at this point in time into an Amazon FC, you're likely going to miss half a peak season anyways, based on their receipt time and their overcapacity. So yeah, I would absolutely be terrified if I were a brand. And there's tools out there that they can use to understand and to integrate and to have the right physical location and order management capabilities. Of course, Davinci is one of them, soft plug there, but there's a lot of other great companies. But if I'm a brand, I'm figuring out fast, how do I backup supply my core ASINs for Amazon? How do I create, differentiated bundles and pack sizes to kind of, play defense on competitors when they go out of stock at different price points and values? How do I differentiate other channels using those same inventory sets so I can be core and smart with the same inventories and create density from an origin to outbound perspective. Those are things that are really important right now.
No, I agree. You brought up another issue, which is, the idea that as consumer spending goes down, right, product isn't moving like it was before. I have a lot of brands who are saying, even at the end of June, on the direct to consumer side of things, traffic just fell off a cliff. Now conversion stayed the same, but traffic fell off a cliff. And therefore, hey, we're looking for other ways to actually move product. And they're sitting then on sometimes 20, 30, some people sitting on 40 weeks of inventory. And, now 40 weeks, what they thought they were going to be able to move, 15 to 20 of those in Q4 here through Amazon. And it's not going to happen. So, I mean, are you seeing then, brands just leverage multiple marketplaces? Are you seeing brands go outside the US? Like, what are you seeing brands do?
Yeah, I actually am seeing brands go outside the US in certain cases. There's only so much capacity and demand, and there's obviously regulatory issues for, beauty categories and food products and, electrical concerns if there's, small appliances and personal care electrics and things like that, and voltage differences. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely seeing brands go outside the US. I'm seeing brands diversify. Walmart's rocking right now. I think Walmart's doing really, really good. They have what I think is a really incredible team inside their organization, and where I maybe don't fully agree that they're pushing everything into marketplace versus the DSV side. I do think that it's working for them, and it's allowing their suppliers and brands to control the speed of which they're going into this channel to onboard. And I'm seeing them win because of it. They've added local deliveries. They've, acquired an automation vendor in Alert Innovations. They're gearing up for their infrastructure, but their fulfillment marketplace or DVS opportunities, especially in CPG and food, is really doing well right now. And I expect that trend to really, really continue. It's interesting. I mean, it's not even that you can keep throwing retail media dollars at everything. Obviously that helps, but I think for brands, the smartest thing that you can do is, availability is the best ability. So if there are ways that you can get to market, and at least be available while trying not to lose money, to me, that's the most important thing. Brand impressions are going to be important this year. I think trying not to set new normals in pricing, discounting, whether it's a bulk buy on Amazon or just dropping the price so far so that you're moving through that 40 weeks of cover. I understand why you need to turn those things into cash, but I think brands need to be very cautious of where they do those activities. Definitely a decrease in D2C traffic. That's been going on for a while. What I would say though is that diversifying again that marketplace infrastructure for the balance of the year to be visible in the right channels and back that up with an ability to try to deliver in 2 days, or maybe not every channel needs 2 days, but having that ability for fulfillment is really, really important. And the way that you mitigate the profitability piece is by having this 1 to 2 day or even same day cadence for either D2C or marketplace, so that you can minimize your outbound freight cost. And the only way you really do that is by diversifying your carrier network and getting closer to consumers specifically, and having the technology to be able to quarterback that and manage it.
Yeah, I think that's another great point that you bring up, because I think a lot of people, they have their own warehouse that they can ship from, but if they're shipping, as backup, even and they're using their Amazon, shipping account to do it, what they don't realize is that Amazon's doing the cost calculation. So even if you're local and you're looking at it and you see it show up, if we'll say you're in LA and you're looking at it and you've got your LA warehouse. And if Amazon goes out of stock and you're going to ship from your own warehouse, and if somebody's shopping in New York or on the East Coast, Amazon's tabulating what that shipping cost is. And if it's too much, even if you're shipping out of your own, it'll just deprecate that ASIN, right? You won't be a buying option because it doesn't want to pay the freight. And so, I think what you're saying is, the ability to put that product close to the end consumer reduces the freight costs, and you can actually keep those ASINs alive across the US.
It's everything, really. You might not have to be 100% 2 days for the US, but to fulfill for Amazon right now, even or anybody really, but specifically Amazon for one building is just, it's not going to cut it. You're looking at decreases in carrier capacity, UPSs, looking at, maintaining profitability, FedEx is outsourcing and having some staffing challenges and things like that. The reliance on one carrier from one location to pick up is a really challenging thing. And I think people who've been in this industry for a long time have seen that movie before. And it's almost impossible to be successful, especially when you hit those spikes in demand from just one building, especially through peak, right? Which is where we are. And it's the most important time, right? Especially in a recession, like consumers are probably a little bit more sensitive right now. And I would say that the customer experience is probably more critical than it's ever been, even in the lower consumer spending. I mean, I think people are still shopping. I'm seeing our numbers like through the roof right now. Like and maybe it's a result of our location network and the promise dates, and the growth as a young company and onboarding brands and things like that is a reality to it. But we're seeing every week be our biggest week ever at the moment. So consumers are definitely shopping. They're shopping for all different types of products across dozens of subcategories that we see. And seasonal trends are starting to pick up. Apparel and footwear is starting to pick up. Small appliances are starting to pick up. So on and so forth. I think CPG and food is still strong, really strong, and has been pretty stable, I think, through a large part of the year. This premise of inventory control and using data and technology to really continue to drive that long term, getting through this peak season. I mean, because we're the other reality to this conversation is that we're almost too late. If you're a brand just starting now, it's going to be really hard to get anything done and have a major impact. Can it be done? Yeah, of course. That integrations with Amazon can happen pretty quick. Shopify, other channels. If it's an API integration, if it's EDI, it's probably pretty challenging. And most of the retailers are going to go into code freezes in the next 5, 6, 7 days, anyways, through the middle of December. So I would say there's a large portion of it that's probably done right now. But coming into next year, like we've been having this conversation for so long with so many brands, and a lot of them are starting to to see it, right? And it only took 3 years of massive pain for them to say, we do need this. And there's a lot of brands that wanted this, but didn't have the teams ready or didn't have their own technology and capabilities with their own ERPs or the right people on the team, whether it's from a leadership perspective or kind of the boots on the ground, and that takes time to build depending on the size of the organization. And there are big implications into bringing fulfillment into a case pick operation, if that's what your company's used to.
Yeah, I mean, and going down that path as well is, the strain on IT as a whole, as everybody plowed into digital, this wasn't, especially when Amazon's covering is the majority of a lot of people's e-com business, unless you're a digitally native brand who's already drop shipping. Amazon's sitting on 14, 16, weeks of cover in some cases, really high number. This wasn't the number one thing, right? And so it got prioritized. Down, I should say, deprioritized. And now, again, I mean, part of the reason, this came up and I wanted to have this topic on the podcast is all of a sudden it's rearing its head again is, hey, Amazon's got 2 weeks of cover. That's what they're going to, and they have some right now. When they get there, there's going to be one event that puts us out of stock. And that's, it puts you in the death spiral on Amazon, right? The one thing you don't want to do is go out of stock. So I just see coming into next year, as people are putting in their, hey, strategic initiatives, what do we need to make sure that we get into place? Like, this is now becoming top 5, I would say, across the organization on the digital side, easily, if not top 3 over and over again. Hey, how do we actually solve for this? If people are planning for this, what does integration look like? Is it 4 weeks? Is it 12 weeks? Is it, what strain is it on the IT? I mean, these are all things that people are concerned with, right now as they're planning. It's just a weird time now, right? For digital marketers, for sales team, for digital teams is, hey, not only are you putting all the planning together for next year, which requires a lot of work, we're also, in the heat of it right now with Q4 and, Cyber 5 around the corner. Like, what do those things look like? Like, how should people be planning? Is this, bringing in 40 hours of IT time? Is this 80 hours? Is this, a 3-month plan? Would love to hear thoughts as people try.
It really depends. I mean, I think the eye on the prize right now is Q1, Q2 for next year. For me, I've been doing fulfillment and been knee deep in this ecosystem for so long. Like, I've seen this coming for a long time, but not everybody has seen that. And to your point, it's very easy to be continuing moving forward when you're always shipping bulk and there's no inherent issues. But there was a lot of signs for it, but it's a hard thing organizationally to change, especially the larger organizations, and prioritize. I totally agree with that. But if you're a brand who's thinking about doing fulfillment the right way, and whether you're outsourcing that or bringing a part of it in-house or doing it all in-house, depending on the ERP, depending on the order management capabilities that you have, depending on the marketplaces that you're trying to reach or drop ship channels, depending on, your item sets, your categories, are you serial number tracked? Are you lot controlled? Do you have FIFO business rules? Like, all of those things are really important to understand so that you can build your system around controlling those elements. You need to measure conversions from each of the cases, and understanding how you build bundles and financially manage bundles and collect money from a bundle SKU while also controlling the components and their lot IDs, and confirming that your inventory in your ERP is accurate comparatively if it's in your own buildings or outsourced into a logistics provider. So if you're using, a NetSuite, a Microsoft Dynamics, a QuickBooks, those are probably going to be maybe some faster integrations from an ERP perspective than an SAP or Oracle, which may be, an AS2 or XML or, VAN EDI type relationship. If it's an API relationship, getting endpoints ready and built out to ingest and be able to get and post certain data elements. It's very specific to a brand and a category and the architectural environments that they have, what data elements they want, data processing, being able to purge PII, personal identifiable information in appropriate timeframes to live up to the standards that Amazon, Walmart, Target, even, other regulatory agencies have on your own D2C businesses. Those are all really important things. And looking at the cybersecurity aspect, the network security, and the flow of data exchange, there's a checklist of things that brands really need to understand before a time frame can be given on that. I would say at max, I've seen some integrations go 12 months for brands watching their environments get ready when they have global organizations. And, there's all of these components that I just mentioned need to be managed by multiple different parties in multiple different countries for a variety of different, implications for each of those countries, tax nexus, inventory control, financial accounting, reporting, everything. It's a lot.
Yeah. What gets you like the most excited?
Being
Right.
in the middle of those conversations with brands and talking to 50 to 100 people within their organizations, and helping them to force those groups to start talking together, to flush out what the right design is so that they can build an infrastructure, that an architecture that can manage a long-term success plan for their e-commerce ecosystem that interoperates with their total business and operating model. I love that piece of it. And I love helping brands be successful in this space. So for me, that's really exciting because Davinci, with our interoperation of front-end merchandising, network optimization, the physical location network with our MFCs, and our order management tech and other tools that we've built and developed here, to me, like, I love utilizing that because it's built so purposefully to help brands be successful in this new era of fulfillment and e-commerce ecosystem. And it's supported for brands' long-term benefit.
Yeah. Awesome. So I've been picking your brain for, I don't know, the last 30 minutes or so. Like, what's top of mind for you? Any questions you have, throw back my way.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to understand, like, what do you hear from the brands and the retailers alike that are their biggest opportunities and pain points and risks coming into 2023 and 2024? What are they looking for right now, and what is that priority and cadence that is so important to them?
Yeah. So I have to break. I mean, number one right now is inventory for everybody. For everybody. I shouldn't say just about everybody. I think, food and beverage, you're going to be fine. CPG, you're going to be fine. But outside of the normal grocery run, it's inventory levels. And, prior to Amazon, you could liquidate, and now you can't liquidate because it will all end up back on Amazon.
That's
You
so
literally,
true. Yeah.
I mean, that has taken away like a major lever that's been able to be pulled in the past because people would buy it at a discount and hold it. And now they immediately put it on Amazon or eBay or wherever else. If you want to liquidate it, you've got to be able to ship it overseas far enough away that it's expensive to get it back in. So inventory is a huge issue across the board. Amazon, people love to hate Amazon at this point in time. I don't understand. I understand that they're going for profitability right now, which is why they're trimming the weeks of cover. I think they could have given brands more of a heads up because they just have a lot of, executive or digital teams explain to executives like, hey, we had no idea this was coming. And a lot of executive teams who haven't dealt with Amazon, they just still scratch their heads. They're like, no, you had to know. Like, they would have told you. Like, and literally nobody knew this was coming. And so they're not going to hit a Q4 number because Amazon's not ordering, and they're not going to. I mean, at this point in time, Amazon doesn't have to. In that time of scarcity, they wanted to make sure they had it no matter what. And now, like, they know if they cut a PO to any brand tomorrow morning, it will ship out tomorrow afternoon. So they can do just in time. But what they're not necessarily planning for is the fact that, like you're pointing out, is the transit and getting it received and in this time of year is incredibly difficult. And then they've got to get it distributed through the network. And I mean, they're going to miss. They're going to miss. I think people are struggling then with pricing, like you brought up. Like, do I discount? I've got a brand that I never discount. Do I discount to move it? Because there's going to be a lot of discounts that are taking place. I mean, they've already started. It's the reason, Amazon had another Prime Day to move it up and grab the dollars before they're spent. Jordan Brannon over at Coalition Technology, he said they should have called it Pumpkin Spice Prime Day. I thought that was hilarious that, it would have gotten a lot more traction, I think. You see Walmart's out there with Black Friday early deals. I mean, Target was. So everybody's dealing with moving inventory pricing. And do you discount? Do you not? And I, it's what I'm concerned about, I guess, from the digital side is, there's been 2 years of people pouring into digital teams. And now in-store is coming back, they're dialing back the digital teams. So I guess we didn't really need you. Well, I don't know if that's the way to go. I really believe it's not. And what I'm
Where do
encouraging
you see brands to that point looking at accelerators, aggregators, and I guess like where is like we play a little bit here, but like the retail media space, right? And some of it's revolved around both those things, the accelerators and the aggregators. Obviously, that's both taken like a dip backwards, with Packable, going down and others in that space kind of seeing some challenges, I think. Where do brands feel about those types of logistics providers that are this full service of I'm going to buy your inventory and control it? Do you see them going backwards on that spot or doubling down on it?
No, I think I don't know. I wouldn't say going backward or doubling down. I think it'll keep going where it's going. They serve there's a few out there that are really trusted. I think there's probably 3 total, and everybody else at scale is just trying to buy, product that's near short dated on liquidation and then move it really quickly. You've got some really great partners out there, like a Pattern that people.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. They're just really, really smart people. They're kind people. Are they the right fit for everybody? No, but they're the right fit for a lot of people. And they can just sell wholesale and people just wash their hands of Amazon because it got so expensive to hire a digital team. If you think about the aggregator space, there's really the issue that happened with the aggregator space, if you want my opinion, is they were growing really fast. They got a lot of money and there was more incentive on acquiring the next brand, just a new brand, and not enough attention to how profitable is this brand and can we continue to drive profit with the brand. And so, there were some ridiculous multiples paid for brands that weren't doing so great. And that was just kind of willy-nilly because we got this money. We need to acquire brands. How many can we acquire as opposed to how do we do this methodically and acquire the right brands that can add, real dollars to the bottom line. I think the retail media space, nobody's got it figured out. Nobody's got it figured out. All the retailers, Amazon, they were the instigators behind it all. And all these all the retailers were seeing this money just flow in gobs to Amazon because you put money in, you get money out. And so Walmart took a while to get around to retail media dollars and a platform that'll work and put the right things in place and the right way to do the bidding, not trimming off anybody past the 100th search term or whatever it was. And now Target's asking for money, Home Depot, like Lowe's, everybody literally is asking for money now, but they don't necessarily know what the turnout is or what the spend should be.
Right. It's like they all created a marketplace just because someone else did. And now it's just follow the leader, right?
Yeah. Oh, Amazon is pay to play. You don't want to pay to play with us? Like, no, we don't mind it, but Amazon at least gives us a dashboard and provides us feedback. And, we spent the last decade, going back and forth with them on, hey, don't call it the halo effect. There's not really a halo effect, even though they say there is, right? It's those type of things. And then Amazon just continues to push further and further and provide more. They give you an hourly data stream now of, hey, you now know when to turn it on and turn it off. And so,
but you have to be in retail media to do that, right? Because their ARA data is not real time anymore. And there's so many data elements that just aren't available anymore. So unless you're using retail media and, certain partners within the retail media landscape, you can't even get access to that data.
Yeah. At this point in time, you you either need to have an agency that has ad tech on the back end, or you need to purchase the ad tech on your own.
Right.
I'm sure there's some massive, Fortune 10 companies or whatever, there's probably one or two that build out their own, but in most cases you need ad tech on the back end. You 100% have to have it without a doubt. Because you can't, you're right, you don't have access to the data. You can't be changing bids on 1,000 items, 100 times a day, which you might be needing to do. So you're not, blowing through your entire budget by 9 a.m. And it's not as big of a deal if you have 5 items and you're doing, you have a $5,000 a month spend. But when we're talking hundreds of thousands or $1 million a month, without a doubt, you have to have somebody that's doing it for you. Or you have to have the ad tech and people internally doing it. There's a bunch of different ad tech out there. I don't have any favorites there. I mean, the ones that have made it are really good, and usually it's just the best fit for how people use the platform.
Right.
But you absolutely have to have it. And then I think right now, I'm seeing the same thing you do. Is like people, what do you do if the total number of people shopping in the US for your product is going down? Well, there's just a report. The world hit 8 billion people. Right? There's 380 or whatever there are million in the US go outside the US. And there's some really cool new platforms, that are challenging the new or the old, to integrate to marketplaces, across the globe. And they've already got partnerships set up for drop shipping. They've already got partnerships set up to get into, break into Japan and or South Korea or across the EU. It's a lot easier now than it was 2 years ago. And I think that's kind of what you're saying too, is all of a sudden a lot of people are like, hey, you know what? I'll dump this into a Momenta and, it'll populate on any marketplace I want, and I'll ship my product to the end consumer. And so that's interesting. We were doing a dinner, and we're just talking through like how much, the digital team has had to change. And a lot of times it's fallen to the digital marketing team, because Amazon was really digital marketing, right? There was no like sales team. You don't sell into Amazon, right? Traditionally, the hardest thing to do is cut into a store shelf, right? You have to prove that your product is going to make more money and move more for the company than the current product in that shelf space. And then after that, you get into sales and marketing. But that hardest part is convincing them to give you that space. Well, Amazon, there's no shelf. There's unlimited shelf space. So the easiest thing to do was sell in. And so then the hardest thing to do was get eyeballs on it, which is the marketing aspect. And
it's all connected, right? I love this conversation because, merchandising is connected to inventory availability, which is connected to the customer experience of getting stuff in 1 to 2 days, which is connected to strong content and reviews and driving traffic to those well-built detail pages on any platform, and having the right organizational hierarchy with brand stores and, being able to cross merchandise and create, strategic values for consumers. And, really, I think eCommerce you asked me this before, what's my favorite thing to do? It's to help brands force their organizations on some level to think about everything being connected. That's why our name's Davinci. Everything is connected. That's a famous quote by Leonardo da Vinci. Learn to see, realize that everything is connected. Obviously my 5-year-old's name is Leo, but the first reason is the connection. And, everything's in direct proportion, to one another. And there's almost one thing that's not more important than the other. So if organizations can work together and learn how to be somewhat self-service in fulfillment and e-commerce, I think what will end up happening is that they will see their businesses grow more scalably, more profitably online and offline. You say, I agree on some level that the halo effect has diminished, and the Amazon sell of the halo effect is somewhat perceived as mythical. I think there are situations where it is real. But that inline versus offline benefit, I think that is a real thing. And I think when you're
Oh,
non-Amazon channels, it becomes really important. The Targets, the Home Depots, the Walmarts, et cetera, Costco's.
oh, I 100% agree on that halo effect. I was just thinking to my old, when I was
It's such
on
a
the brand
sales tool.
side,
It's such a sales
AMG.
tool from Amazon about the
Yeah.
halo effect.
Yeah, on AMG, and I had like a $200,000 spend.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, well, we only converted, we gave you 70 cents on the dollar. I'm like, okay, so I
But the
lost money
impression-
already. But the halo effect gets us up to 90 cents on the dollar. Like, what do you mean the halo? Well, they bought your other product after they looked at this product. So obviously it was because of our ad. I'm like, I don't
better
think
than
it was
cash.
because of my ad, because they searched on my product, but too funny. But yeah, I mean, yes, it has an interconnectedness on multiple levels. One is obviously the brand. If a person, the actual customer sees it and on Amazon, and it's got good rating, then they see it in the store, like might be more apt to buy it. The other side is just a lot of, the buyers for in store. I mean, they look at Amazon and they look there to see the ratings, the reviews, the price point, how many authorized resellers, or unauthorized resellers you have. They're looking at that holistically. And there is that effect as well. If you've got you run a really clean Amazon channel and you're a new product and you've got, 400 legitimate, 5-star reviews and you're at the right price point, that's a really easy way to, for that buyer to say, at the end of the day, if the product doesn't move, like, why'd you choose this? Oh, because look at it. Look at them on Amazon. It's awesome. They're a #1 bestseller. So we're almost at time here. What else? Anything in the last, few minutes here as we kind of wrap up? We both got a hard stop here.
No, I mean, listen, I love this. I'm doing a call with your team tomorrow, which I'm obviously excited about. So hopefully the same people will listen in, and it's always a pleasure to speak with you. And for the brands and other folks that listen to this, thanks for listening in. And from my perspective, try to control your own destiny. Embrace fulfillment, embrace multi-site fulfillment. If you challenge yourselves and your organization to do what looks really hard, you'll probably figure out the solutions to it. And, in my opinion, there's never been a better time with just some of the smartest people out there trying to tackle a lot of these problems. And I think highly of what we're doing at Davinci, of course, and welcome anybody who needs help.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Corey, for being such a great friend, partner, supporter of the network. I really love the conversation. With that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.